Okay guys, we got everything back from the powder coater. Everything turned out really nice, so we can go ahead and start taking some measurements so we can figure out our main shaft thrust in this case combo. So the first thing we want to do that, and I've already taken this measurement on the bell housing, is get the bell housing, lay it out, and you get a straight edge and you place it over top of the main shaft bearing inside the case. And what you want to do is take some feeler gauges and you want to measure right on the inner race, right here and right here, and it helps to move the straight edge around to make sure your measurements are consistent. I came up with 0.91 millimeters for the distance here. And then after that, you have to build your entire stack. And then you take your tail housing and you remove the shim and the little spacer deal that's in the bottom there. And what you're going to do is, first of all, you're going to get a splash of oil on the outer race of this bearing, so that it slides in and out of that case as easily as possible. We're going nowhere. We're going to coat the outside of that bearing. Now this transmission case is not mine. This is Panchos. He is brave enough to let me put his together for him. I'm going to put a little bit of oil there and there, and then we can put the entire main shaft down into the case. Alright, she's sitting in there, but we want to make sure that it's all the way down. So I'm just going to take a little pry bar and just tap on the outer race. See, it dropped down a little bit further. Okay, she's bottomed out now. So let me show you what that looks like. So that is going to look like this.
Just use not a nice grading point.
Now that is all the way in there. So now the next step is to find your flat washer that goes on the main shaft. And then basically repeat the same steps. Let's see how we can see this. Okay. We'll take our straight edge again. And what we're going to do is find our feeler gauges. pretty close. That's pretty money right there. So we got, you get the calculator out, we got 0.406 plus 0.813 plus 0.889. And that equals, whoops, 2.108. So, I'll take my Sharpie and I'm going to write that inside the case. 2.108. There we go. So, what we do is we go to our repair manual and we'll clear all this. So the first measurement we took on the bell housing was C. You want to add, and then B was, measuring for B is what we just did here. So we add C and B together. So we want to add 0.915 plus 2.108, and that gives us about 3 millimeters. Okay, so then we take that 3 millimeters and we subtract 0.93, which is about the distance of the spring washer that I do not have installed here. And that'll tell us the thickness of the shim that we need to put in the end of the tail housing. So we're going to subtract 0.93 and we get 2.093. So every transmission that I've acquired, blown up, bought, whatever, I always salvage the shim out of the bottom of the case. You can see I've gone through a lot of transmissions. So now we find one. This first one, 1.6, nope. 1.6, nope. 1.5, nope. 1.6, nope. 1.2, nope. Ooh, that one's too big. 2.3. Set that one to the side. 1.6. Worst case scenario, I can't find the correct shim to order online. We can sand or machine this one down to the proper size. 1.6. 1.6. So most of these are around the same. And naturally, I don't have a shim. We are gonna do the same thing we just did here in this case. This is my cutaway case, so that I can install it and inspect how all of the gears mesh, how everything lines up. Okay guys, I've got the main shaft in the cutaway case. It's all the way down there, fully seated. And I've already measured the clearance, and it's exactly what the other housing was. So yeah, these tail shaft housing seems to be very consistent in their machining, which is good. Way to go, Honda. It's a little daunting, but yeah, is what it is. And this procedure, at least for checking the main shaft thrust, is universal if you're doing it on a stock gear set or a Dogbox. You know, if you break a case or you're switching main shafts from case to case or whatever, you always need to check the main shaft thrust. All right, I'm gonna get this all put away, cleaned up, find some dowels for the housing, and then we're gonna work on setting the preloader with the differential next. Okay guys, I'm on HondaAutomotiveParts.com. This is where I go to get all of my factory Honda parts. You can put in the year, make, and model, select categories, go down here to transmission manual, and then you want to go to manual transmission housing. I'll bring you to the page that I'm on. This is the little plate that sits behind the shim that guides the oil into the main shaft. So this is the shim. Let's see if I can't get them all in view. Probably not. Okay, so this is the shim. It's number 8. So we're gonna scroll down here till we start seeing 8s. So these are number 8s. A lot of these are discontinued. So I'm gonna scroll down till I see one that is available. 2.3, that's too big. This is available. 1.7, too small. 219, that's a little big, may work. 1.5, that's too small. 2.1, that one should be perfect. And if I scroll down here, there's 2.04, so that's like the difference of the high and the low. So here's $9 a piece, which isn't a huge deal. I'm going to order this one and order this one, and then we won't be able to finally install everything until we get this shim in. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and place that order, and then we'll come back once we get the shims in and go from there. In the meantime, I will set the preload for this differential. I have a bunch of shims here for that. I believe these are some custom dudes I had made. I believe all of these are differential shims. So should be able to get the preload set, no problem. Bunch of old races just in case. Alright guys, I found a shim that's about in the middle of the size of all of these. Threw it in there. We're gonna see how it does. Put the race in. Got the all the dowels put in. So we're gonna shove her on here and see what kind of preload we're looking at. Let's see. This race is a little loose, so oh, there goes one of my dowels. That's all right. We don't need all 4. Okay. All right. So I gotta get some bolts put in here. I'll do that here in a little bit, but this is the little tool that I made to go onto this beam style inch-pound torque wrench. You can, so this is like a 13mm bolt or something like that I cut a notch out of and taped a freaking head of a, not the head, but the length of a bolt on. And you can put it in right here. You can get the differential to spin and measure the breakaway torque of the diff. So this is pretty close to sandwiched down. So I'm thinking it may need a little bigger shim already. But yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna grab some bolts and get back to you. All right, I got a couple bolts in here. It's hard to see, but this shim's loose. I can spin it by hand, so that's definitely not tight enough. So I'll pull that out and I'll try to put a thicker shim in. And if I don't have anything thicker, gotta order something. All right, got my thickest shim in here. Still not tight enough. So we're gonna go ahead and order thicker shim. That one is a 2.2 millimeter, so I'm gonna jump up to like a 2.5 if I can. Okay guys, we got our main shaft shim in the mail, so we're gonna go ahead and get it put into the cutaway case and dry fit all this together. I want to pick this gear set up all together with the forks like this. Just set it on. Go. I'll put a tiny amount. Alright. I'm gonna remove the outside of this bearing. Yeah, me too. This bearing. So that the case slides over it nice and happy. Alright, we got all of these lined up in here. I just gotta get this bearing on. It does not like me. Let's see. Oh, that's what we're caught up on. No? I don't know. We'll see. I have not. I know, I'm not very helpful, am I? Just needed the right amount of persuasion. Now we gotta open this guy up. Tap him the rest of the way down. The snap ring on the counter shaft locked in, so it's good. So we are most of the way installed. Just gotta throw a couple bolts in here. Make sure she's tight. She's definitely on the snap ring because we're not seated back here. Hopefully it's not too tight. That's what we're here to find out. Might need to put the tighter, or sorry, looser snap ring in it. It's acting a little tight. I'll know here in a second. Throwing the upgraded shift springs into it, so we got a little better feel. So these just go into these guys. Gotta put your detent ball in each hole. You put this guy in here. And very carefully start it without stripping. Easier to start this way. Okay. Before we go anywhere with those, we want to make sure that these are centered in their holes. That's neutral, that's neutral. Nothing's going to support this one yet because I don't have the reverse switch in. I did forget to put the reverse in, son of a bitch. That's alright. I will take this back apart and not too tight. Okay, so now we can see how third and fourth gear rides. It's very centered, so that is very good. Let me tip this thing up on its side real quick. So the point of this window case is to see the gear mesh of each gear. You can see first gear rides a little high on the counter shaft, but that is a-okay because over 3/4 of the teeth are contacting the next gear, and first gear is not going to have the most amount of load in it. Third and fourth are going to have the most amount of load in it. Second gear is looking pretty much dead nuts even, so that looks great. Third, kind of hard to see in there. Let me see if I can't engage it in the third. It's pretty tight without lube and getting all worn out, but it's very even. Fourth is very even. Let me flip this dude over. Okay. Should be able to see third a little better. It's pretty lined up. Fourth gear is also pretty lined up. Nice and straight. Everything looks very good. Oh yeah. I'm real happy with third and fourth. They're about perfect. Alright, so I'm happy with that. It's definitely crushing the main shaft spring down here, so we're in the cushion that we need to be for the main shaft thrust. You can see that it pulled the case down a little bit whenever I tightened it. You want that to a degree, not too much. I can spin it in neutral by hand, so we're good on the thrust there. So I'm going to pull this back apart here in a little bit and get reverse all set up and make sure it's not hitting or causing an issue there. But as far as everything looks, I think we're pretty golden. Alright, boys and girls, it's been a while. We finally got a custom fin for the diff made. Shout out to Cody Saver. He banged me out a couple of them. I've already test fit it with the case and it is going to work out perfect. So what I'm going to do now is stick everything in here, assemble it dry, make sure everything's happy, shifts good, and then I'll pull it all back apart and go from there. So sexy. Look at it. Alright, boys and girls, we're about to do the final install, glue the case together. We got some titanium bolts going in there. All these are going to get a very slight amount of anti-seize on there because titanium going into aluminum will gall and not be happy. So I'm going to sit you over here. Hopefully you can see pretty good. And then we'll get to it. to go, guys. She's got the drip. Now, I'll be putting this cap on later, replacing these two bolts, and replacing this reverse idler bolt. But other than that, she's finished.